Hi, Sharon and Ed, would you just, for the audience anyway, let us know what your full name is, and then, when you were born?
Edward Carl Rieflin. I was born in 1944.
I'm Sharon Rieflin, teacher, and I was born in 1940.
And how long have you lived in Webster?
Well, we lived almost my whole life until
Wow.
4 years ago when I moved to Florida.
No, I live in Penfield now, I've been there for 30 years.
Okay,
But
when-
before that, I lived in Webster.
Right. Where was your home when you first?
Salt Road,
Salt Road?
where the golf course is.
440 Salt Road.
Yeah, 440 Salt Road, where the golf course is, and
Yes.
that's why we're so interested in your story. And I gotta get this. What are some of the things that you remember growing up at Salt Road in Webster?
Well, it was there were 10 of us. The house was built in 1940, and I was born, they moved in September. I was born 2 weeks after they moved in. I think they moved in September, because they had an old home
Your
there.
mother and father's names were?
My mother was Doris Yeager.
Oh,
They
yeah.
both lived on Salt Road.
Oh,
Frank Yeager family, she was from 10 kids, and then
Uh-huh.
Dad lived on Salt Road. My grandfather bought the original farm back, I think, in 1913, and the house was old. They had no electricity or running water, so they saved to build this house that's there now. We lived with my grandparents after my parents got married, and there's 6 kids, so we had 10 of people in the house. Yeah, it was pretty crowded. And then my dad and mom bought the farm from my grandfather.
uh-huh.
And then my father, after he bought it, with that they could live there the rest of their lives. And then after my father kept buying adjoining farms.
Oh, okay,
'Cause there
kept
was only-
adding on to it?
Yeah, there was only originally 66 acres.
Uh-huh,
And then, he kept buying adjoining, which I think it wound up, he had like a total of 350 acres.
wow.
Well,
It wasn't
it
all
was
the
close
golf
to,
course.
he bought the old Day Farm, and then he bought some land from Bishopines and
Right.
a lot of the other.
Yeah.
And then my Grandpa Rieflin, Herman, owned where the Arboretum is.
Oh, yeah.
He owned that whole corner,
Okay.
from Basket and Schlegel. That was, I forget how many acres were there. Maybe
60.
Maybe
I think it's-
60
Yeah,
something.
something, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, and Grandpa always said that, but Dad farmed it.
So what did he, what did he grow?
Well, he had
Well, it was basically a dairy farm.
Okay,
But he had fruits and vegetables also, and so he grew a lot of tomatoes, cabbage, cucumbers, pickles, those kind of things, beans.
a lot of fruit trees.
But then, a lot of land, he had, the corn for silage.
Oh, yeah.
And wheat
Yeah.
and oats and that, for the grain for the cows.
right.
So, but basically, his big thing was a dairy farm back in probably in the 50s, mostly in
Yeah,
the 50s.
well, he had like 70 head of registered Guernsey cattle.
Oh, yeah.
And then, he had fruit, vegetable, and dairy, so if something didn't make it, he could count on me.
Cabbage was big.
Well, he lucked out with the cabbage, but the cows, the milk, because we sold the milk to Webster Dairy, that was
Uh-huh.
there then. And he had a big stainless steel, he redid the barn right
Right.
before he decided to build the golf course.
Yeah.
The cows had it looked pretty nice out there, with automatic gutter cleaners and
Oh,
electric
really?
milking, which was big, now they're in the museums, but.
Yeah,
Yeah, so the milk check, I think, got us through the winter.
okay,
That's, because, nothing was coming in the winter.
I know.
And he had all kinds of fruit, a lot of apples,
Yeah, a lot of
a
apples.
lot of apple trees.
Did he do evaporated apples or not?
No,
No.
no.
So he,
But there were some dried apple farms on Salt Road,
right,
because I know my mother's family, a lot of them worked at some of those dry
Yeah.
houses. Yeah.
I've heard about the dancing and the parties on Salt Road.
Oh,
Were you guys all part of that?
They had
we used to
the
have picnics.
Salt Road picnics.
They had a
Yeah.
young and an old Salt Road picnic,
Oh,
and people
really?
would take turns up and down, but I don't remember the dancing,
Dancing.
unless.
The Jaegers, I'm remembering from some old stories, but I may have gotten it wrong, so.
Well, that could be, a lot of singing,
Yeah.
I'm the oldest, so I probably remember. every time we'd have one of those picnics, Grandpa Yeager would, at the end of the night, when the sun was setting, he'd get out his harmonica and pitch the tune, and everybody would stand around a circle, and we'd sing
Sing
all the
songs.
old songs. But I
Nice.
was probably 9 years old. You know.
Nice.
We were
How
all-
many, how many girls and boys in your family?
Well, 5 girls and one
And
boy.
me.
Poor guy.
Yeah, stuck right
He
in the
was
middle.
surrounded by girls all the time.
Yeah.
So your father had all of you working though on the farm or what?
Well,
We were pretty young, I mean, we were all still pretty young.
Yeah.
I was 13 when he decided to change.
Okay,
But he made us work.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we still had to go out and do our chores, and we got home from school, usually we'd have a few chores to do.
but the other
But
ones.
the summertime, when you
yeah.
were doing the harvesting, they made us go out and help. So,
I
he didn't really, it wasn't awful, like
Yeah.
push us hard, but he made us work. We had our chores to do, and we had to do them.
You just did them.
Yeah.
And Sharon, I remember the story that you did for History in a Cup when you talked about how it was a different time, you know, how you packed up your wagon and
Oh,
you,
we used.
you wanna tell
We used
that?
to play out in the woods, remember? Do you remember? that?
Not that much, no, go
Well,
ahead.
we had one of those old red wagons with the slats like they have today. And we could, I remember you went with us, I think Carol was a baby and Jeanette, I don't know if Jeanette was with us.
Yeah.
We packed up that wagon with blankets and stuff and then Dad, the way the fences for the cows, there were trails you could go back in the
Uh-huh.
woods. So we'd go there for overnight. No chaperone, you know, Dad might come down and check on us and we'd make rooms with the blankets and whatever, like, you know. And we'd sleep there overnight and take
Yeah.
our food and,
Oh, yeah, we
It
camped
was
out
like
when we were
camping.
kids, we always.
And you weren't scared or anything?
no. And then the pond, which is now it's right by number
Uh-huh.
17 Green, that when the summer we'd swim there and then in the winter we skated. We'd have all the kids in the neighborhood, well, they weren't that far, you know, they were down the road at the
Yeah.
Myers and the Rosenbauers and we'd skate and there were many accidents,
Oh,
but
fun.
we'd get a whip going, about 20 kids on the whip, and we used to have a lot of fun. Yeah,
good.
we had some broken bones, but,
Yeah, a few broken bones, yeah, that's for sure. Yeah.
well, we made our own fun, you know, we'd
Yeah.
go out and play, and
It's different
it
times.
was, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, the nearest neighbor was the Kylers, and then, Anna and Charlie Meyer lived right down
okay.
a ways on the
Yeah.
hill there, by Woodard, and she was a bae, she was my grandmother's sister, so
Okay,
they were, yeah.
Well, the day farm was across the street.
Right, the other corner, yeah.
okay, so when did your father, or how did your father decide that he wanted to stop farming? Did he?
Well, I know how this happened.
Okay,
He was always a volunteer fireman, and his, I think Union Hill was his, you know,
Okay.
where he served because of where your location was. But the firemen always had, you know, parties and stuff, and the Ontario firemen owned the little 9-hole golf course. You know, Ontario firemen owned Ontario Golf Club.
Oh, that back
I don't know if
then?
everybody
Oh, my
knows
goodness.
that. They built it, where the clubhouse was for the old Ontario Golf Club, that was the fire hall for the firemen way back. So when they had the parties, my mom and dad would go to because they always went to each other's parties. And when he went there, he saw the golf course and heard, you know, just checked about it and that. He just got tired of farming because, I don't know, he just was looking for something else.
Yeah,
And he
it's a
just
gamble.
got but that's where he originally got the idea. Now, I don't know from there how he pursued it more so, other than I know that once he decided to do something about it, he called Mr. James Harrison, who was a golf course architect out of Turtle Creek, Pennsylvania. And Mr. Harrison was a pretty renowned architect in those days. And he got a hold of him, and then they got together, and he made the decision to do it, which was a bad timing, because he did it back in, I think it was 56, 57, when they were in a recession.
oh, yeah.
And he was gonna sell, he thought he'd sell it, because we had a good herd of Guernseys, he thought he was gonna sell all the equipment in the herd and make the money to
Well, he had an auction.
help build the golf course, and unfortunately, the auction fell right on its face, because
We didn't make much
it was
money.
during the recession, and, you know, they were practically giving it away. And I'll never, we were kids, all I remember was our old garage, they had set up like a little food thing in there with candy bars. That
That was all shot.
well, no, yeah, but eventually, but we were in there, all we cared about was getting a candy bar, because that was a treat back in those days. But I do remember the auction, because I had to auction off my calf that I used for 4-H. And,
you and I had
to auction them off, and it was
We
kind of
walked the
hard.
house around for the auction.
Yeah, we helped.
Oh,
Yeah.
did you really?
But,
Yeah, and he was hoping to get,
I heard, as the story gets told, about the price of cabbages.
oh, the cabbage.
Could
Well,
you-
that helped my
Yeah,
dad because
tell that story.
he was hoping to make, I think, a lot more money on the auction, like
Wow.
Ed said, and he didn't. So at that year, it happened to be the same year, and he had sold all the barn was empty. All the
Well-
stanchions were gone and everything.
yeah, I think I got the story, because
Right.
what happened was, right, we had the auction, so now the barn was empty, but we had a big, like a shed where we kept the equipment on the other side. Plus, we had another barn over on Basket Road that my dad owned, that farm,
Yeah.
Long Rods ended up buying it. But anyways, so that year, because he started that fall to clear the woods out where we're gonna build the golf course. And so he made cabbages, we always had a cash crop every year. So he decided to do cabbage. So he planted a lot of cabbage. I mean, we had a lot of land. So he planted a ton of cabbage. Well, unfortunately, when we went to harvest the cabbage, you couldn't sell it for $5 a ton. It was just, nobody was buying it. So, I mean, because they had over flooded the market. So make a long story short, what he did is we just stored it in all our barns. And, I mean, tons and hundreds of tons of cabbage. I mean, we filled up barns of it. And I guess most of the farmers then just went out and plowed it under. So he sat on it, because unfortunately, right now, he was gonna lose, he didn't know what to do, because the auction was kind of a bust. And somebody must have been watching over him. But anyways, came late December, early January, they had a huge frost in Florida and California. And it killed all the cabbage crop. And cabbage went to over $200 a ton. It's never been there again, ever.
Yeah, that's what he made out.
Never. I just remember we were kids and we were home for Christmas vacation. We spent the whole time up on the cabbage thing. They were trimming cabbage, tractor trailer trucks coming in all hours of the day and night, hauling cabbage out. And that's what saved them and got them the money to finish the golf course.
Yeah.
Wow.
So but every farmer in
Oh, they
Webster
still
will
talk
tell you
about
that story.
Oh, I was here for something too, I don't know if you were here that time.
Jimmy Wilbur, he was.
When Gordon Bay was here, they had
Yep.
different
Oh, yeah.
people, you came.
Gordon.
Gordon even talked about it at that meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, because it was
They
just
remember that.
a crazy
And he
thing.
was lucky because the barns were empty, he wouldn't have been able to.
Oh, that's true. to
Well, we had
store
the
it.
one shed
Yeah,
we
you
could
had.
have, but not the big barn.
Right.
That
So,
held a lot of
yeah,
tons.
I remember when Dad told me what he was thinking of doing, the golf course, I think I was 14.
We didn't even know what it was. Never heard.
Well, no, I did because
I never did.
Mom and Dad belonged, they had a social membership at Ontario.
Uh-oh.
They didn't play much, but they used to
That's
go
how
to
he got
parties.
us, yeah.
And I remember, we were over by where the Arboretum is, that was Grandpa's land, but they had all tomatoes, like the whole thing was tomatoes. And I was back on the back of the tractor with him, and I think I was 14. And then he told me, he said, Sharon, I'm thinking of getting rid of the farm. And when he did it, he was 48 years old, he had 6 kids, none of us had been to college yet. So it was quite a,
What I meant to say was,
Gotcha.
when he said he was gonna build a golf, I didn't know what golf was. I had never heard of golf.
oh, yeah.
Didn't even know what it
yeah.
was. Didn't know what sport, I mean, we just didn't know.
Yeah.
We were about
Yeah.
baseball and,
Yeah.
that kind
Well,
of thing. But I never heard of golf, never.
Well, I did, because I knew they belonged, I'd never been there, but I knew they belonged to Ontario. But that was their social, part of their,
Right.
the social life wasn't what it is.
So how long did it take him to build it then? I mean, really, to realize,
57, when did the course open?
It
57?
opened Memorial Day of '58 is when it opened. So they started building in the fall of '56. And, because that's when we had, the restaurant opened before that. The restaurant opened,
57,
like that, May of,
57, year before.
I don't know if it was the whole year
I never-
before, but it was
But
like
I know
maybe,
they were open
it was
a-
before, like 5 or 6 months before.
I know we were open a while before he got the liquor
But I know it was
license.
Memorial Day of '58, I remember that, is when the course was finished and opened.
Is the restaurant where it is now?
Yeah, well, kinda, yeah, of course, the old barns
They
burned down, the
burned
clubhouse
down.
burned
Burned down
down.
in the 70s.
Yeah, no, it burned down, what,
Late 70s.
no. Sure, it's
Yeah, when the fire?
89, 90, when it
No.
burned down, yes.
Her dad, Dad was in Florida, he had that surgery.
I was there.
Yeah, he died in 1980. So it was in the
Only to
city.
think back. All right, yeah, it had, you're right, 79.
Yeah, was it late, I'm pretty sure.
Yes, 78, 79.
Yeah, so they had to rebuild it.
Wow,
Wow.
don't seem that long.
I know, I was.
Time goes by.
Then
Oh,
you,
my
then
goodness.
you ran it, right, or what?
Yeah, I worked for my dad when I got out of college, and then I went in with the pro there, who was Tom Murphy, and him and I became partners, and we built the West course.
Okay.
I designed the course, and then we built it together as partners, and eventually we leased the club, the other course, Happy Acres,
Uh-huh.
from my dad with an option to buy, and we worked out the lease and the option, and we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we ran it for, well, quite a few years,
I know.
yeah. So,
Well, the land across the street, Mr. Tyler owned. I worked for my dad when I got after I got out of college. But I wasn't there, Ed was there a lot longer than I was, but I kind of managed the inside. But I know it was right when, it was only a couple years after they opened the restaurant and everything. And Kyler had the land across the street where the West Course is now for sale. And my dad didn't want houses there. So he was kind of, he
that's
bought
how he
it.
sold it to us.
Which he didn't have any money at that time, because he just opened this, we were better off on the farm, I don't think that first year we got much for Christmas, because there wasn't much money.
Oh, no, not
And,
most of us.
but anyway, he bought it, because I remember, I worked for him then, and I remember every time that quarterly payment would come due, you didn't want to.
You didn't want to see it?
No, I mean, even my Carol was talking about my other sister, when I got married and had children, I didn't work there anymore, and then my other sister Carol took over, but she was even talking about it.
She said the same thing.
Yeah, well, we didn't, it was, it was
Touchy.
kind of not the right timing for him, because he had just invested in this huge change.
Yeah.
Well, but it turned out the timing really was really good,
Yeah.
because the 60s is when golf took off
Things, yeah.
and boomed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but it was hard to get going, but once it got going in the middle 60s or so, then
Right.
things got a lot better.
But the
Because
funny
golf
thing
was
is that
popular, you know.
Dad, back when he didn't have, when he hired an architect, that's very expensive, and, and my father used to pay cash for everything. You just didn't have a charge, you didn't
Yeah.
charge. So when he went to Marine Midland to borrow some money, and he was on the board there as a farmer, they wouldn't loan him any money because he had no credit.
Wow.
Oh.
So he wound up having to borrow from friends and family, and that was hard for him, because I remember he almost had a nervous breakdown, because he wasn't used to owing people
Right.
money.
Yeah.
Today, that's so.
Yeah, he paid cash. He always paid cash for
Yeah,
everything.
and my mother
That's
had
when they did it.
My mother had a charge at the style shop, but he never knew about it. Never did. Mom-
I didn't know about
So
that.
Mom, see, I'm older, so
I'm super.
Mom told me that years ago. She said, "Don't tell your father."
Yeah.
But so it was quite very gutsy for somebody that age.
For what he did, yeah,
Yeah.
that was a big move, yeah. for
People
sure.
I think people thought he was crazy.
They did, yeah,
Yeah.
they really did. yeah.
But they all cheered him on,
Yeah, well,
and it
yeah.
became successful. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Well, we all worked hard. It was a lot of work.
Were there any big memorable events that occurred in like the 60s or the 70s?
Yeah, we had the, what were they called, Bobby Hill, who was probably one of the most prominent golf professionals from Rochester, became our first golf pro.
Oh.
And Bobby was pretty well known in Rochester.
How do you get him? How do you
You
get a
hired
golf pro? Do you have to
You
pay a
hired
lot of money?
You
You interview
advertise
them
for,
and-
yeah, you interview, and you pay them a salary, but mostly you give them the pro shop. The
Oh,
way the pros work is they get their merchandise. They'll sell the
Oh, yeah,
merchandise,
yeah,
golf
yeah.
carts, they might get a
Okay.
percentage of. That's the way they did things, they still do today. I mean, of course, a little different now when you take guys at Oak Hill are making huge money when they have a major championship
Yeah.
there, but that's the way he did it. And Bobby Hill was a very good promoter, and he knew a lot of the press.
He was well known.
Yeah, he knew a lot of them. And so we had to talk to my dad and have him, Harry Mangurian
Oh, yeah.
Remember
Yeah.
Mangarians?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sponsored
so Harry Mangarian decided they had a big golf tournament there. It was a 2-day event. My dad had to give up the golf course for public use for 2 days, and usually on Saturdays and Sundays is
Oh,
when you
you
got
made
the
your
big
money.
money.
Yeah.
But anyways, make a long story short, they had that for 2 full years, and a lot of the best pros around came. George Newsom, they had Mo Norman, who was is the most famous, one of the most famous Canadian golfers there were. Geez, Sammy Rosetta. I mean,
Local guys.
but not only local, there was a lot. Charlie Sifford, who was one of the first black golfers, he played there and brought a bunch of his guys with him to play there. And one of them, Pete Brown, played there. He ended up on the pro tour. But
Nice.
yeah, but there was
Did
a
your
lot.
father follow golf then after that, when he got involved in it?
You know, he a little bit, but
Yeah.
my dad never played much, and he wasn't really.
Into the
He
golf?
was a baseball player.
Well, we didn't have the time.
Dad, he liked his Yankees, you know, he was a ball player. But he you know, he would play, and we'd go out, and he would
Yeah.
play. And, but he, you know, he'd follow a little bit of golf, Arnie, you know, we always
Yeah.
got the thing with Arnold and Jack and all,
Yeah.
that was at the time, you know. But the Mangarine Open was probably the biggest thing
It
we
is.
had
I had
in the early
pictures
60s.
that I brought here. They're in our box in the,
Oh, okay.
with the
Oh, you
story.
can add that.
There's a whole picture, but it shows the scoreboard and Harry Mangary, my dad, and I
Yeah, they're
think
all there.
Chet Walsh was
And-
president then.
And Bob Wilson, I think, who
Yeah.
owned,
Yeah, Bob Wilson
Empire.
was one of our
oh,
first members.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
Bob and
charter member,
who else was?
Guy Bondi.
Guy Bondi, who used to be owner of the Empire Lanes.
Oh, yeah.
There were quite a few.
There's a
I
lot.
just can't remember.
Yeah.
Well, the members had a lot of parties, a lot of fun. Oh, yeah.
Back in those days when people joined a golf club, I think.
What was it? How much does it cost to join?
Well, back
Well,
then.
back
Yeah.
then it was
It's all
hardly anything.
relative, but.
But what I was gonna say is, when my dad built Hippie Acres, at that time, there hadn't been a golf course built in Monroe County in
Yeah.
something like 30 years. I don't know the exact
wow.
time,
Okay.
exact, but it was a long time.
Yeah.
I think it was Lakeshore was the only one. So back then, when you joined a golf club, even though it wasn't a high-end course.
Ours
like
was
you-
a semi-private.
Yeah, but people, when you had joined a golf club back then, that's where everybody went for their dinners and
Oh,
they
yeah.
hung out, and, you know, the families went and stuff like that. So members really participated, you know, today they don't, you know. Some do, but they very seldom do anymore, except at the high-end clubs.
Right.
But, so our membership in the beginning was very strong, and was partly, really in the beginning, was the foundation for, you know, us to make the money that we need to make to
Right.
make the golf
And it
course
helped us
go.
get through the winter.
Right, because you had membership
We had
dues
the
and
dues.
stuff.
Oh,
But eventually it became more public than private.
Well, we used to be open, the restaurant used to be open 7 days a week.
wow.
Now it's just a party house, which is
Now
really
it's just part of it.
better. I think you make more money. if
The
you just-
weddings and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the others, you have to keep inventory, it's all a guesstimate,
Yeah.
who's coming, who isn't. But we
That's
were open
true.
every day, and then on the weekends, we did a lot of weddings. My mother and I
Wow.
used to
Oh my
hostess
God.
all the weddings and
Afternoon weddings.
cut the
evening
cakes and,
weddings.
then we used to do a big lunch hour, but we weren't
Yeah.
open for lunch on Saturday and Sunday. But big Xerox,
When Xerox was going
Uh-huh.
strong,
You'd have
yeah,
their.
there, we used to,
we
like, we'd have a
would
couple
do
hundred
well
people
over
there.
200 lunches on a
Friday.
Friday.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
And then, I mean, in
In
all
and
week
out in an
long,
hour.
you're averaging over 100, 150 people for lunch, and Fridays was a zoo. It was just
That
crazy,
was,
yeah.
How big was your average membership?
Well, when we first started, he was up to like 300 members in the beginning,
Wow.
but then that dwindled down, you know, as things, because everything kind of changed. It went for more of a public, semi-private club than membership club, because, you know, things, you know,
Yeah.
how things change.
Absolutely.
So, anyways, yeah.
Great.
sorry about that.
Okay. So how long, you as a family stayed together there right until you went off to college, probably, right?
I
Well,
came
no,
back.
we all
but-
came back.
Oh, you all came back?
We
We
all
all,
came
my
back to
father,
work.
I came back from college, we both went to Alfred State, and Ed and I was determined, I was gonna get an apartment in the city with some girlfriends, and my father talked me right out of it. We all stayed home, all of 6 of us stayed home till we got married.
Oh, really?
My dad never charged us room and board,
No,
but we worked.
we worked out.
You
Yeah.
worked.
Don't worry, you know what he was doing.
We worked our room and board off, but,
Yeah.
oh yeah, no, and I was there till I was almost 25, we were like 23,
Yeah. I
yeah.
got married and moved out,
Yeah.
obviously, yeah.
So that's fun.
We all stayed there until we
Yeah.
got married, well, Nancy,
Pretty much we all got
my
married.
youngest sister is the only one that lives out of town. She lives in Kingston, New York. And after she went to college, she met her husband down in there, and she really didn't come back after that.
So when you were married, did you both stay in Webster?
I did, because
I
I was
did.
working.
Right,
at
'cause
the
you were
golf
there.
club, Yeah.
I was there up until 30 years ago.
I moved to Ontario for a short period of time, yeah,
Okay,
but I'm still working at the golf club, yeah.
okay. Where did you live?
I lived in a little house right on the corner of Knickerbocker and Kenyon.
Okay.
For a
And
while.
when you moved back to Webster, did you?
I lived back in the old house again.
Okay.
Yeah, I lived there for quite a while. Matter of fact, I ended up owning it.
Oh,
And then I eventually, I owned the old homestead for quite a while, and then eventually sold it.
so what's the address of the homestead?
The actual address of the homestead is 440,
Okay.
but, and we never ever used the Happy Acres address. I think it was
I
supposed
thought
to be
it was-
like 427 or some
Oh, we
stupid
always
thing.
used 440?
Yeah, I know,
Oh, for the whole
even the
thing.
mail people did, but,
Oh, yeah, I didn't know it was different.
well,
Yeah,
it really never was, but of course, you know, they
Oh,
have to
okay.
have it separate, but they never used it. I don't know.
okay.
But the old homestead was always 440 Salt Road.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your mother and father lived there, pretty much, right? Until they,
Yeah, after they got married, my mother moved in with my dad and his parents.
yeah.
which
Well,
was kinda
yeah,
hard.
they lived there until, oh my gosh, till they were in their 60s.
Yeah, then
Okay.
they bought a
Cottage.
cottage down in Sodas Point.
Oh,
Sodas
okay.
by the golf course.
Yeah.
On South Shore, and
Uh-huh.
then they'd go back and forth, because they were still working, yeah.
Yeah,
Then after they retired, they just lived in Sodas.
Yeah.
well, and they
And
had,
then they went to Florida,
they had a place in Florida. Yeah,
Nice.
so.
so.
Were there any redesigns to the golf club over the years, or did it?
Not, as far as the greens and tee, we added new tees, we added some new sand traps, and of course, the big thing was, mostly, you know, we didn't change the design much. We added a lot of tees to make it a little longer, or shorter for some and longer for the others. And, you know, more trees and some sand
Yeah,
traps and
because when they
bunkers.
first opened it, they had a lot of apple trees,
Yeah,
because they left a lot of the orchards.
Oh, yeah.
right.
But then those eventually died, so they
Yeah.
replaced them with, and then my dad on the first and the 10th hole had the poplars.
Yeah,
Remember?
they were terrible.
Which
Yeah,
back
I remember, I
then, they
had to
had
cut
a
them all
20
down. They're
25
awful.
They had a
Yeah,
20,
they are
supposedly had a
horrible.
25-year
They ruined all my
lifespan,
mowers, I know
but then
that.
they died, so we had to replace them all with
Yeah.
mostly pines, right?
No, I
No?
replaced them with,
What'd you replace them
I
with?
put a lot of locusts and pin oaks in,
Okay.
yeah.
But they, you know, at the time, 25 years, you think, oh, that's, you know.
Yeah.
My dad and I probably planted a lot of those trees that are still there today.
That's something.
A
Tell
lot
them
of them.
about the first fairway with the salt. It'd be
Oh,
interesting.
yeah, well, that's interesting, yes, of course, we live on Salt Road.
And it's
Right.
tough, like, 'cause
Well,
a lot of
if,
salt
right
mines.
off the road there on, probably about 250, 300 yards past the clubhouse, it was a flat land there, and that was the salt beds.
Ah, okay.
So we had to put in a lot of drainage and stuff, because you couldn't grow grass on it. So, but that's why Salt Road, there and up by Xerox has a
Yeah.
big bed of salt
They do.
also, yeah. So, yeah, that was, the old salt beds, but you could look out there before when we had the farm. You know, I was a kid, but I remember some nights my dad would take me, and we'd go and look, and all the deer would be out licking the salt out. You know.
Ah,
Oh.
that's awesome.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was pretty good. Yeah, when you were a kid, that was pretty cool.
Did you ever find any? Did you ever find any? You know, Indian artifacts out there, or any?
Yeah,
No,
that's true.
Never did. No,
Okay.
No.
My and Dad, they had movies of this, but they all got burned in the fire. My dad rented a big bulldozer and bulldozed two
Wow.
fairways through the woods.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
pond and.
Yeah, he had
and-
to dig that all out,
Right, and the drainage work and the irrigation.
and
work.
because that was all solid woods back there, and there's two fairways.
How'd you figure out how to do that?
No, the architect.
Oh, the
Mr.
architect,
Yeah,
yeah.
Mr. Rice. And he brought in a gentleman called Mr. Ed Spiegel, who was like an engineer. And he was like the engineer growing the grass and making sure everything was put in exactly to the specs
You knew
of the
exactly.
He was there
greens.
for 2 years in the beginning.
Yeah.
He lived in the house, I don't know,
The house on
upstairs.
Basket Road.
No, but he lived with us for a while. My mother had always extra people, I don't know how she. And we always had our
Really?
girlfriends over. Yeah, Ed was there for a short time
Yeah.
living with us, and then he brought his family up because Dad had the tenant house on Basket Road that was my grandfather's. So they lived there.
Flaherty's lived
Yeah,
there too.
and Jim Flaherty and his family lived there for a while.
Owns flags.
Yeah.
Flaherty's.
Really?
The
He had
original
the first
Flaherty's.
taxi business in what?
Yeah, and Dad helped him with the first taxi cab business he had.
Taxi cab
Wow.
business,
Yeah, he
Yeah.
started the first one in Webster.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Jim Flaherty.
There you go.
Now his kids, he's gone.
His kids run,
it.
they own the flag.
They own the one here, and then one other boy owns one in
31,
Massillon.
yeah, Mason,
Yeah.
yeah.
Where
Yeah.
did you go to school when you were younger?
I was the last graduating class from Old Webster High,
Okay.
but we all went to Holy Trinity till 8th
We were
grade.
there for 8 years.
Yeah, every one of us, yeah,
Yeah, we all went to Webster.
so.
How did you get there? Did you walk? Did you?
No, we had buses.
Buses.
We
Okay.
had buses.
Well, myself and my sister between us, we didn't go to kindergarten because there was no busing for us. Dad would have had to bring us to the village. So Ed, you went to kindergarten.
Yeah, I did.
He was the first one that went, because then they started busing us.
And that was up at the old, where the old Webster High School is, that building across,
Oh,
what do they
yeah,
call
where
it?
there's
now?
a-
So it was
apartment
Webster
building.
Schools that bust you?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
what do they call the building across from Webster High? There's apartments there now. It used
Yeah.
to be.
That's
what's
the
old-
old. That's the old Webster High
Yes.
School.
Yeah,
Yes.
Well,
real old one.
Yes,
You
exactly.
didn't graduate from that one.
No,
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 no, the
the-
original,
Spry. We
I'm not that old.
We graduated from Spry.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. Right.
Were your parents involved at Holy Trinity? Was that where you is it or
Oh, yeah.
is that why
that
you
was our
went there?
parish, yeah, yes.
Okay.
Yes. yeah.
Okay.
My mother went to school there.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's right, she's a Jaeger.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's a Yankee. Now, they used
But
to
I
walk
would
to
ride
school.
my bike when I got older, because I was an altar boy, so when you had to do 8 o'clock mass and you couldn't get the bus and you'd be too late, so I used to ride my bike all the way up Salt Road
Oh,
on
my
Ridge Road.
goodness.
Never thought a thing of it, because there wasn't a ton of traffic back then.
No.
Right.
You know,
Well, when
dude-
Mom and Dad grew up, the Salt Road was a dirt road.
Well, I didn't,
Yeah,
well,
before we were born.
yeah, those days,
Yeah,
that's way back.
well, I know.
Yeah. Actually, we got a picture, I don't know if you gave it to him, I have it still, I
Oh,
have
yeah.
that picture of the
horses.
the mule teams
Yes.
plowing
I
Salt
gave it
Road.
to
Oh, my
Lindsay.
goodness.
Really?
10, I
That's
think it
how
was
they plow
20,
it.
20 mules, 10,
Because you couldn't get out. I remember one of my younger sisters, Carol, she's 6 years younger than I am, and she was born in February of 47, and the weather was so bad. I mean, Mr. Kyler had a snowmobile. I don't know.
47?
Yes, it was, that's when, because I stayed with,
No, didn't have a snow.
Adelaide Clem was my
Yeah.
dad's sister,
She's-
right next to Holy Trinity, and I've got pictures of me and Jean
He
Clem,
probably had a sleigh.
Carol's husband.
Yeah.
We're on these snowbanks that are higher than this building.
Uh,
And that's how it was, and they were worried about Mom, because she was going into labor, how she was even gonna get to the hospital. I forget how she got there, but she made
So what hospital did she go to?
Park Avenue.
Okay.
We were all born in Park Avenue, which is no longer there.
yeah. So,
And Dr. Lynch was our doctor,
Yeah.
right down on Main Street.
So when you guys went shopping, where did you go shopping?
My mother went to the
Village.
style
What-
shop.
Okay. Yeah, right. We talked about that.
Village, I went to,
Tell them about
the
Grandpa.
Gardens.
After my grandmother died, my mother used to take Grandpa Rieflin. He lived to be 89, and he lived with us. He was just a wonderful man.
Very smart man.
Very smart. He read our encyclopedia from A to Z, and he should have been a teacher. He remembered everything he read. And he'd read the morning paper, and then we got both, the Times Union. And so
And
Mom,
the Aden Post, he read that.
I'll read it, yeah. And then listen to, and he was Lutheran. He wasn't Catholic, but he listened to Bishop Sheen, and he was very knowledgeable, probably more knowledgeable than I am about my religion. But he, on Saturdays, my mom would take him up into the village to do his shopping,
Is
you
there?
know, like her errands. And then he'd always wind up at Burke's and have a little short beer. And then she would send me Ed or I.
She would send me in mostly, because I send the girls in the Burks.
I
So,
remember going.
or the old Webster Hotel, but I loved it, because as soon as I got in, he hadn't finished his beer, he used to call me Buster. He said, Buster, sit down. He'd say to the bartender, give me an orange pop. So I got an orange pop. So I didn't care, but they were all waiting out in the car, and I was there drinking my orange pop.
They had nicknames for each one of us.
Yeah, so that was it's funny, things you remember, that I remember.
What was your first car?
Mine, a 1963 Pontiac Tempest Coupe,
Ah,
326, 3-speed on the floor, I'll never forget it. I'd love to have it back.
I'd like to have mine. I had a 58 Pontiac Sky Chief convertible.
She
oh, nice.
had a beautiful car too,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that would be worth some money now.
Oh, yeah.
All the cars are,
Yeah.
those old cars. Yeah.
We got
So.
it. Got it at Pitts Pontiac. It was 2 years old.
How much was gas then?
Oh, I don't remember. Probably nine. I don't remember.
25 cents.
I don't think
Yeah.
it was that cheap.
Well,
I don't
it
know.
was, yeah, when I was in college, it was right around 20
Really?
cents.
That's all? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, you could get a beer for 20 cents.
Oh, 30 cents. 30 cents standard ale at Alfred. That's what we did.
It was terrible that time.
Never-
Oh, it was awful,
Yeah.
that stuff.
Guys, do you guys remember any big events when you were younger? Anything that sticks out to you?
The sorrow pictures. And the big thing event was going, we used to be in the parade for the Fireman's Carnival, the kitty parade.
I don't remember being in that.
No, we did.
But I remember
That
going
was
to
a
the
big-
Grange, we always used to go to the
Oh,
Grange.
Grandpa belonged to the Grange.
Oh,
And
really?
they had the
They used to
pancake
make-
breakfasts there.
They used to
yeah.
have minstrel shows.
For some reason, I remember that.
We used to go there quite a bit because of Grandpa.
But the only big events I remember when I was a kid is my father and mother taking us all in one car, including my grandfather, all the way up to Niagara Falls.
Oh,
Remember that? And we
how many in one car?
We all got in
There
one
was
car, there were
9 of us.
Nine.
Big old Chrysler. Drive us to
Yeah,
Niagara Falls.
probably
My
one was
grand,
laying in the back, there were
and
probably
we would
four
be
in the
there.
front.
I'd be
We
sitting
could
on my grandfather's lap. I mean, we were all just jammed in there. It was amazing.
not- Well, when we used to go out to Spencerport too with Grandpa.
Yeah.
To
Did you
Uncle
sing
Louis.
songs in the car?
Not really.
No, no.
Oh, you had family in Spencerport?
My dad's brother, Louis Rieflin, lived in Spencerport. He lived on Manitou Road right by the canal.
Mm-hmm.
And that was very tragic. My Uncle Louis, he had a brother and a sister. He had another brother, Edward, that died when he was young, and that's who Ed's named after. Yeah, I think he had the flu. His probably
Scarlet fever or something.
Was he 9 or he was young?
No, he's 6.
6? I couldn't.
Yeah, I got that.
But anyway, Uncle Louis lived out there, my dad's brother, and his sister Adley married Roy Clem, who's right next to
The Clems.
Holy Trinity. And anyway, I got married on October 9th of 1965, and my uncle was electrocuted on October 1st.
Oh, dear Lord.
Yeah, out on, Ted and I had just got our house, we bought a house on 250 down from Woodhull. And we had just got our house there Friday night, we were over there working on it, and it was really windy. And then we had a call, the next morning the phone rang at 7:03 in the morning. It was my mother's older sister, Gert, who was good friends with my uncle and his wife. And Louis' wife was a Wilbert.
We're all
Telling
related.
us, she heard it on the radio that my uncle was electrocuted.
Oh.
Oh,
She
my
was
goodness.
she was hysterical.
Well,
Yeah, and he was, well, during the storm, and where they lived, there was a huge oak tree in the front of the yard. Well, I guess because it was, and he used to have migrants for the week. He ran a Harris Seed farm, and he used to get the migrants on the weekend to do whatever. And that, well, this would have been Saturday morning, and because it was raining, he didn't do that. He must have decided to go out and get the paper. And in the meantime, not seeing, because it was still pitch dark, everybody was sleeping in the house. And the
one of the lines fell down.
yeah,
came
all
down.
the tree, also limbs from that huge, fell, and he just walked into it, never knew what it
Yeah,
It was really sad.
Wow.
And his funeral was Monday, and I got married Saturday. It was really hard.
yeah,
So it was, yeah, bittersweet.
yeah.
Yeah, his only brother, it was hard.
Yeah.
And he was only 59.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
So how did you guys get the produce and the crops from the farm to where they were going to be sold?
Oh, yeah, that was interesting. We used to go to
Market,
the farm, the market.
public market.
Up in the city?
Yeah, where it is now.
Yeah, I remember, because I remember our dad, they'd get the truck ready and they'd start loading it, and I remember getting up at 4:35 in the morning, because you always wanted to go with them, because it was a treat. So, you'd load up your truck or whatever your harvest was, and you'd go to the market and park, they had a place to park it, and then you'd sell your goods, and
So did you guys go down Ridge Road and then down the Dugway, or how did
Dugway.
you?
I'd
Okay.
go to Dugway.
And then up-
they actually used to do that when they only had the horses, my dad told me.
Huh?
But back when my grandfather first moved there, and when they were kids, they used to go to the market, but it took them, it was all day right till dusk.
Oh,
It was
really?
on. Well, because you were the horses, that's
Yeah.
a ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to go with my dad too, and the treat was, there was a restaurant there, I don't know if it was called Jimmy's or whatever.
Yeah, we always ate there.
Dad would take us there for lunch, and
That
we'd
was
have like a hot.
No, it was a treat because you got real bread, we never.
Yeah.
I mean, bread from a store, we never had bread.
Oh, we didn't go to a
It was all
restaurant,
homemade.
I mean, we never went out to eat, we couldn't afford it.
Well, it was a treat. But now I forget what I was gonna say. But he sold most of his, the big crops to Beech Nut.
Tomatoes.
Yeah,
Big.
but Beech Nut bought a lot of his crops.
That was right on Main
And
Street.
cabbage too.
Beech Nut was?
In
Yeah,
Matt's
it's
bought
an
a lot
empty
of the
building
apples.
now. It's on the left-hand side going down Main Street, not too far down.
Yeah,
from-
Beech Nut. Then Matt's
Whitten.
also, for
Yeah.
apples and fruit and stuff.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
So,
he had a lot of apples. He had bees. We had bee.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, and then he'd have the beekeeper come to get the bees moving. They'd smoke them out because they had to pollinate the
yeah,
apple trees, and I remember that.
yeah,
Do you remember the bees?
yeah, right by the ninth green.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What do you mean that, you have to smoke them out
Well,
to
to
get
get them,
to work?
Yeah.
Go to work?
I remember he had a smoker in the smoke.
No, you
and then
used,
would put-
I think you used the smoke to get them so they were kind of, then you'd go in and they used to take
They
the
would
honey.
Oh,
sting
so
you.
So
they
they
wouldn't
take
be
the honey,
stinging you.
yeah,
Yeah.
they take the
I
honey
remember
out.
he had
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
nut
Yeah,
pad and
yeah, take
everything
the
on.
honey
and-
out, yeah.
Yeah, well, you have, the
Yeah,
bees are,
well,
I remember.
funny little things you remember. So, like you said, one of the big things that happened, I'll go leave here and then I'll think of something, but.
Well, yeah.
You know how that is,
Wow.
so.
Yeah, well then,
Yeah.
the three younger ones graduated from Thomas.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was an interesting life. We worked hard, we all worked hard.
We were
But
happy.
I'll tell you what, our parents worked hard, but they played hard.
Yeah, they had fun.
You know what I mean? They went out, when they went out, they went out. They had a good time. They had a lot of fun. And when they were out with their friends, when they older and they got retired, they all hung out at Conley's Cove down there,
Down
and
in
they all
Silver's.
had a great time. All good people. A lot of the big businessmen from Webster, they all hung out together. The Pitts and the Rutners and the Buckners
Buckner.
and all the main business people back in those days, so they enjoyed their life. They did, yeah.
When they retired, they went.
They enjoyed it.
When did your parents pass away?
My dad passed away in '88, and my mom in '94.
Yeah, 88. Mom died in 96.
Well, I knew his dad was '88 because he was
Yeah.
80 years old. He was
Right.
born in 1908. So it's
Mom died in 96, February of 96.
Where are they buried?
Holy
Holy
Trinity.
Trinity.
Okay.
Most of our
Yeah.
whole family,
Everybody's there. It's like
Everybody's
going
there.
home.
just about. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of them.
Yeah.
A lot of my mother's family's there. All my grandparents are there. My niece, Uncle Louis is there.
Yeah.
I got my pot there.
Oh well.
Yeah, well, hey, you gotta do those things.
Well, one of the things is, have we covered everything that you think you'd like to talk about? Or would you like to add some more?
Do you have any questions you wanna ask us? Any other ones?
Where'd you go to elementary school? Oh, yeah,
Holy
Holy
Trinity.
Trinity, yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
I remember that. Okay, did you have a nickname?
We all had nicknames.
Did you?
Well, mine didn't. Everybody just called me Ed or Eddie or Edward.
Well, but no.
But my
growing up.
he's the only one who called me that though.
Yeah.
What'd he call you?
Buster.
Buster,
And then
okay.
my dad called me Doodlebug, and then Jeanette was Blondie, you were Buster, Carol was Schimmel,
Yeah, because she had the
Schimmel.
white
which means
hair.
white horse, and because she had white. Marilyn was
Tiny.
Dimples,
Oh, Maryland.
Nancy was tiny.
Yeah.
We all had
That's
nicknames.
So what was it like when Xerox first came in? Did everything start changing?
Well, it did help. I mean, we built. I built the driving range down there, and that was a big boost for us because it still is busy with Xerox people. They just, for their lunch hour, they'll go hit balls. But, yeah, Xerox helped, because, we always had leagues from Kodak, Bausch and Lomb, Gleason's, and of course, then Xerox moved in. They actually built the same year my dad built the golf course.
Right.
It was almost simultaneously.
Oh, wow.
58, yeah.
And, but anyway, so when they started the leagues and stuff, they, of course, then we got Xerox leagues, which helps, obviously. And, also, for a while there, Xerox, like I said, we did a lot of lunches and stuff. With
Then they
mostly-
cut their lunch hour down to a half
Well,
an
yeah,
hour.
when they cracked down, that was
They
all,
cracked
pretty
down,
much
it
all
wasn't an
over.
hour anymore, 'cause they were extending their hourly lunch.
But we did a lot of, what do you call it, too?
Parties.
Yeah, parties, yeah.
We had a lot
but-
of clam bakes. Oh, they were a lot of work.
Oh, really?
A lot of work.
Yeah.
We had a great chef, Ray.
Did you see a lot, you must have seen a lot of the build
How'd you
out
get a
when
chef?
new houses came in, right?
I don't know,
Yeah.
Dad hired him,
Okay.
he
Yeah.
must have, I don't remember how he hired Ray, do you? Ray Pusher when he Ray?
Don't know.
You don't know where he came from?
Well,
Well, he
he-
lived in Webster, he lived on
He,
the,
Oh.
he
he
passed away a
he
couple
worked at
years
the
ago.
Country Club of Rochester.
After
Oh,
he left
okay.
us, that
No,
was
he
it.
worked there a little before that, and then he came.
Oh, he did, I didn't
Yes,
know
and
that.
that's why he went back. yeah.
Oh,
And it was Ray who?
Ray Pusher, Puchyr,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he lived down in.
and nice, very good cook.
Good for him.
I learned how to cook from him.
Oh.
When I got married, I'd call him once a week and say, Ray, I'm having such and such, what do I do? And he was very good at seasoning and, flavoring your food.
Yeah, the members.
At
loved
one
it.
time, we were
Yeah.
so busy, we had two chefs, him and John Marshall.
Oh, really?
We had a few different chefs along the way, but Ray was there the longest. Yeah, he was. And he
Yeah.
just passed away, I think, a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Lived on Adams Road.
Oh,
Yeah.
West Webster. Okay.
Yeah, and,
Yeah.
nice guy. Be a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun.
Well, it was, hey, living on a golf course is,
Yeah.
or in a farm, it really doesn't get much better than that. I mean, you're working all the time, you
People
don't
are
think about it,
relaxed.
but when you get older and you think back and you go, wow, that was pretty
Yeah,
good.
we had,
Wasn't
You know how
too
it
bad.
is, you're working all the
Yeah.
time, you don't pay attention, but
Yep.
as you get older, you realize that was a good life to be
and growing
able
up
to do
on
that.
the farm too, we ate well,
Yeah,
because they
Yeah,
butchered all the
right,
animals.
all fresh
We had pigs and
Yeah.
chickens and cows and then my grandfather had a huge
just made
garden.
our own milk. I'll never forget the first time I
We
had
never,
stored
we
milk.
drank
thought it was white
unpasteurized milk
water.
our whole
Oh,
life.
wow.
We-
You know, because it was, you tasted it, because we had Guernseys, so you can imagine how thick that milk was.
Mhm.
And it
It's
wasn't
real heavy
pasteurized.
butter.
Oh,
Yeah.
you didn't drink pasteurized?
No, it was just right from the cows.
Oh, my
They brought it
goodness.
over and we put it in the
They
refrigerator.
chilled it right away and,
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, that was it.
They made, they made everything when
Yeah.
she made her own butter, they made
Yeah,
their own
they did
soap, oh gosh, yeah. But we ate well, and then, Dad used to deal with Whitmers and Masons on
Mhm.
North Avenue. And all the feed bags that they bought for
Oh,
the
yeah.
feed for the animals
Excuse me.
were all cotton, 100% cotton material, which I still have some. My mother had started making a quilt. I've got all that material
Oh,
at home,
nice.
I'm gonna try to work on it. But that material is like, it's all, it's hard to find 100% cotton, it's all, and my grandmother used to make us girls' dresses. They made curtains, they made a lot of stuff out of it.
Gary Morgan, we had him in here, he grew up in the village, and we had him in here for History in a Cup. He said, I'm so jealous, I was so jealous of the people who came from the farms and had the t-shirts made out of,
A lot of
You didn't
seed bags,
even-
right?
Yeah.
Seed bags were.
He
good.
loved
T-shirts
them.
made out of this.
No, I don't remember
I
that.
don't remember making t-shirts, but, yeah, I mean, that material is, it's like brand new.
was it good? Yeah, it
Yeah.
was good.
Yeah, they were the half fans, but now I'm trying to applique them on muslins and squares. Just a matter of getting it
Good
done.
for you, Sharon.
My youngest sister was just in town, because I was home, and I showed it to her. She said, Sharon, I'll take some and try to work on them, because I asked all my sisters after my mother passed away, do you want to get together once a month and we'll work on this quilt? Nobody wanted to do it. But anyway, there's quite a few of them. But, yeah, Grandma made Ged. They used to take when coats wore out, my grandmother would cut them down and make coats for us.
Oh,
Oh, I mean, nothing got wasted. I remember her doing that, and she used to make all the,
Yeah, and I remember you never left the lights on or you'd be in big
Oh.
trouble.
or the thermostat,
Oh
oh
my
my God.
God, the war over the
Yeah.
thermostat, yeah.
No, they made everything. I mean, it was a wonderful way to grow up on the farm. It really was. Don't you think?
Yeah, I liked it. I mean, you know,
Was
when
it
I was a little
cold?
kid,
No.
In the wintertime, it wasn't cold?
my room was cold.
Your room
I
was
lived up in
cold?
the
Yeah,
attic.
he was up in the attic.
I was the
so
only boy, they threw me up in the attic.
And I was on the other side.
Yeah,
Dad,
they-
after we
But it was
started having
cold.
more kids, he made 2 bedrooms up in the
Yeah,
third
it was
floor.
colder than heck in the winter and hotter than 80 in the summer.
Oh, that's true,
It was
yeah,
Yeah, and we also, he's the only one that had his own room. The rest of us were all doubled up.
yeah.
Ah,
I never slept alone till 3 years ago. Yeah. Yeah.
what did you do as you got older?
What did I?
Yeah,
Well,
You-
I got married. I've got 3 daughters. I have twins.
Worked for St. Rita's.
And I worked for my dad for not a long, he worked there for years, but I worked for him. When I got out of college, he wanted me to, he hired Millie Bardo, we gotta bring in, Millie Bardo, I don't know if you ever know that name. She used to own
The old Heritage House.
the old Heritage House was Bardo's years ago. And then that
Oh,
closed,
yeah.
and then she was working, there was a restaurant in the old Sibley's,
Mm-hmm.
up by Wakeman's, where Plaza
Oh,
was.
yeah,
And that closed, so he hired her, because my father knew nothing about the restaurant business. So he hired Millie to manage the restaurant, and she was there for quite a while. Then when I went to college, when I got out, he wanted me to come and work, and Millie was still there, and I said, no, I want to go out and get some experience first. So I worked in the city for a couple of years, and then I went to work for my father. But then I got married and had kids, so I didn't work after I had my children. My sister Carol took over. And then after my kids, junior high, my girls all went to St. Rita's. And in junior high, I started working part-time at St. Rita's. I was their parish accountant. And I was there
Oh.
for 33 and a half years.
Oh, my goodness.
Long time,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, well,
And he worked. at the-
yeah, I got out of college, I pretty much worked at the golf club, but then I really liked the outside stuff, so I became educated in the turf business. And so I got my certification for a golf course superintendent. And so basically was my big thing. And so I was a certified golf course superintendent, and then I worked right to the end. But I did a lot in the restaurant too. I ran the restaurant for a while also. I did everything.
Yeah, we all did, yeah.
But my big love was out on the golf course. That's what I like to do. I like being outside. That was my big thing.
Excellent.
Yeah, he was outside, I was inside.
Yep.
Yeah,
So that's pretty much,
we all worked hard.
that was pretty much my life. Yeah, digging ditches.
Well, we used to, when we
Laying
were young,
drainage and irrigation.
when
yeah,
Dad first
growing-
started the club, we used to do the
They
dishes.
say, what do you do for a living? I say, grow grass. And they go, what kind, right? I should have grown the other kind. It would have been more lucrative.
Yeah,
probably.
Well, we used to have to work in the kitchen peeling potatoes and
Oh, we did
washing
everything.
dishes.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah,
where we
that's nice.
started
That was
off.
our winter job. You tended bar or whatever.
Then
We
you
got over.
elevated to the dining room, we waited on the table.
Yeah, well,
But then
we did it all.
yeah.
Did what it had. You
Yeah.
did what you had to do
Yeah.
to make it work. So.
And you never questioned it, you just did
That's-
it, you know?
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming
Well,
in,
thank you.
telling your story. It's a big story for Webster.
Yeah.
You know, your farm and
Yeah.
then the golf
That land's
course.
been there, a long
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's really interesting
Well, thanks for having us.
to know how you do things, how it works.
Thank you.
When you,
Yeah.
once you're a farmer and next time you own a
Yeah.
golf course.
Well, I'll tell you, farming to growing grass wasn't a whole lot different.
Yeah,
But
Yeah,
right,
you're
and
still
we had
working
the
in the
land,
dirt.
so-
still working,
Yeah,
yeah.
still working in
And
the
Dad
dirt.
had the land, which was.
Well, that
Yeah.
was the big
Big
thing.
thing.
The land was
You know, you
huge.
didn't have to buy the land.
That's,
And he was smart buying the.
it's
absorbent
sad to
plants.
see all this land being developed, though. I hate
Ooh,
watching it.
How about it?
I don't like it. I mean, it's nice, it's always nice to see open land. I mean, yeah, you gotta have homes and stuff.
And then
but-
you really miss it when they start plowing it under,
Yeah.
you
They
really
already-
miss that open space.
Yeah.
Oh, they already.
When they
had.
start
Yeah.
building up everything.
Yeah, I know it.
I went by there today, it's all,
Yeah,
It's
the West Course.
well, just like Shadow Pines, it's sad over there too in Penfield.
Yeah, but they're not putting homes on it. They just
No,
let it go.
they had a referendum I worked at, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's gonna be like a park trail.
Well, it's all right then.
Which is good,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because they didn't want homes, yeah.
Okay.
All
Yeah.
right, well, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome,
welcome.
Peter. Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
us. We
Absolutely.
Nice to meet you.
Peter, yeah, did you tell him about what